You know, the other interesting thing with Buddy Ryan is normally when a new head coach comes in, they hire their staff. Well, Buddy Ryan survived different staff hires, head coaching hires. And so is there immediate friction between he and Ditka?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, no. You talk about, because Buddy thought that he was going to get the job. He really, during that last year, 1981, just before Neil Armstrong was fired, our head coach, you can imagine this is the last week of the season, and there were players on our team, Gary Fensick, Alan Page, that got together and they drafted a letter to George Halas requesting that he retain Buddy Ryan, because you knew that there was going to be, when a year goes badly, there's going to be a change made and somebody's going to get fired. That was clear as could be. And there was going to be a change made. So the defense got together, signed this entire letter, sent it to the owner, George Halas, on a Monday after a game. And I believe it was a Wednesday of that week. We're practicing on the field right there in Lake Forest College, or Lake Forest, Illinois. And on the practice field is George Halas. And he comes out onto the field in a golf cart. And he drives over. Now, the whole team is practicing. Offense is at one end, defense is at the other. And so he drives his cart, and he drives over towards the defensive end. And he tells the coaches, hey, listen, I want to talk to the defense. So we surround the golf cart. And I want to tell you guys something. I really appreciate that letter that you wrote and everybody signed. It was about, please reconsider firing our defensive coordinator. He's done a good job. Look at the stats. We're not in a position where we are right now because of our defense. And he said, I want you to know that your coach, Buddy Ryan, is going to be here next year. He didn't say at any position. He just said, we are going to retain him for next year. And he said, I feel the defense has done a great job, and keep up the good work. So he gets back in his golf cart. This is at practice now. We are at one end of the field, the defense, and the offense is at the other end. And a head coach is over there with the offense. George Halas gets back in his golf cart and drives away. He doesn't want to talk to anybody else. Now, if you were an offensive player or a coach and you just saw the owner come on the field with the golf cart and he just talked to the defense and then he gets back in the golf cart and leaves, what would you think? At the end of a bad year, you're in December. Listen, it had to be just catastrophic. That the imagination can go in all different directions. And sure enough, it wasn't very long after the season ended that immediately George Halas made a decision and fired Neil Armstrong, and then surprised everybody by hiring Mike Ditka. And I got to tell you, Mike's personality and Buddy's clashed so much that first year was unbelievable. Everybody before used to go to practice, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of light days. Practice was, I don't want to say like walkthrough, but you weren't like, destroying anybody or anything. When Mike Ditka came to town and you went out to practice and you put a helmet on, you better pad up. I mean, because you know what? A game could break out at any moment. And Buddy would start sending defensive blitzes against our offense in practice when Mike was there. And Mike would say, cut the defensive guys that are coming in, chop them down, cut them down. I mean, this was like all-out civil war. I mean, I got to tell you, some of those practices were incredibly intense. And you were trying to rock somebody else's world. Now, it's really, really hard. It's one thing to get into a fight with somebody you don't know. Did you ever try to get into a fight with somebody you know? And now you're trying to really hit them as hard as you can, and drive your helmet in their stomach, their chest, helmet to helmet, whatever. Receivers coming across the field, getting clotheslined. Now, I knew that was a penalty, but it didn't matter because it was just practice. And it was like that is what happened. That first year, it was terror. And no, those two guys would really despise each other. In fact, sometimes Mike would come down and just alert the defense, that we were going out early or whatever, that it was raining, we might be inside or something like that. And when he would leave the room, Buddy would make some kind of joke, say something funny about Mike Ditka, and the whole room would just burst out laughing. And Coach Ditka was standing out in the hallway, and wouldn't it be one thing if you went into a room and said, hey, listen, you guys, we're going to go practice a half hour early or something, and then you close the door and you're walking away, and you hear this huge laughter erupt in the room. Would you not think you were part of the joke? I would. And he was. And in couple times, Mike would stick his head back in there. He goes, you guys got a problem with something? Nope, everything's fine. Everything's great. It was like two little kids that just hated each other. And, sometimes you can't really arrange for every situation, but I think looking back on that relationship that Mike and Buddy had, I think it kept both of them on edge and fresh and aggressive and sharp. And both of them were trying to outdo the other one, in terms of scoring points or creating turnovers or getting interceptions. And it's funny. I had a chance to talk to Buddy and Mike afterwards. And both of them would say, you know what? I was never as good a coach as I was with Mike or with Buddy. And that's a tremendous amount of humility from a coach to say that.
With what they went through and how much I'm sure they hated each other at different times.
And I think they both appreciated each other, though, ultimately, because, they, regardless of what they felt about each other, they worked so hard and they put so much effort into this and so much emotion that even Mike, Mike's first meeting he just said, there's a new sheriff in town and things are going to be different now. And we're not going to keep running things the way we did before. And he said, things are going to change. We're going to become more aggressive. We're going to attack. We're going to have an offense that is different than what we've had before. And, I give Mike credit because without Mike Ditka, I truly believe Mike was such a catalyst on that team for just changing everything, the mindset. He totally changed the mindset. And instead of having a coach that comes out, shaking hands with all the other coaches on the field, no, Mike didn't do any of that. Mike stormed on the field like he wanted to fight somebody. It was throwing things. I was kind of getting back to the Woody Hayes days of breaking, blackboards and throwing things and the emotion. And I think that's what I'm saying. Those two coaches were able to bring a team right to the emotional edge in terms of their effort and their desire and their willingness to do whatever they could for each other and sacrifice. And all these corny things that you hear like, in the military, but it's true for sports. And, when you get to that point in time, you've got something so special, you don't realize how hard it is to duplicate that. And, once one of them went away, there was a huge vacuum. When Buddy left, even though he didn't have the success that he was hoping for in Philadelphia or Houston, it was the same thing was true for Mike. Mike needed a punching bag. Those two guys were great at just keeping each one of them on edge.